Update 1.4 was a pretty impactful update. It brought us a lot of balance and also released Koga into Ranked, so there's quite a few things for me to talk about when it comes to this video. Now, as many of you may know, I did mix up the way I do these. I'm gonna go ahead and mix it up again. For a long time now, I've gone over every single character in these guides, and in all honesty, it's a waste of time because a lot of the video is spent repeating information I already gave you guys in the prior guide. So from this point onward, I'm only going to focus on the must-pick, must-ban characters and the characters who had some kind of meta shift. As for the characters I leave out, go ahead and assume that they haven't moved in any real way and that they're the same as before. Now, the reasons for doing this are again, because repeating the same info is redundant, and because these guides are something I honestly dread doing. So focusing on the new info is going to help me want to do these guides, and it's going to save everyone time, so I think it's a win-win. Now, before we get started, I want to say that this guide is based off of my experience in higher tier PC games. So if you play in lower tiers, it's going to seem a lot different from what you guys are used to. We don't ban Tyra in high tiers. You rarely ever see her there. Also, the same goes for console. This is going to seem different. We don't ban Moji or, spoilers, Koga on PC. With that out of the way, let's get started. So the undisputed best two characters in the game are still Khan and Makoa, with Khan being better than Makoa. It's a crazy thought really. For a long time Makoa was the undisputed best, but in recent updates it's been all Khan. A big part of that is honestly his ultimate. Makoa could always hook somebody to get a pick, but Khan's ult does it so much better. It's a guaranteed kill because it goes farther, it auto-locks on, and it lets you hold a target for your teammates to kill for 3 to 5 seconds depending on crowd control reduction. As much as I love Khan, I have to admit his ult needs some tuning. Firing line is of course very strong as well, but it doesn't really need any balancing, not like his ultimate does. It's just that powerful. There is counterplay to Khan's ult, but it only comes out if Khan ults in a bad position. He's defenseless while ulting, so he can be easily bursted down, but good Khans ult from far away, where they can quickly hide behind something while their teammates kill the target. As it stands right now, Khan is nearly always banned. As for Makoa, we all know why he's strong. It's been the same case for a while, Leviathan and his hook. Often, if your team is first pick, you ban other things and attempt to get Makoa. And if you're second pick, you ban Makoa to keep the enemy from getting him. Again, these two are either always banned or first picked. There's no real way around that. And that's it. Those are the only two characters really at that level right now. There are other good bans and picks, but they're not really must bans or must picks. They're more situational must bans or must picks. So let's go over those. Cassie is still a solid ban. You could honestly ban her at any time in any game if there isn't a better situational ban. Cassie did get nerfed, it wasn't a big one, but it was enough to make her less overwhelming and nudge her off that must-ban pedestal. Instead of a 1380 burst, it's now a 1280 burst, and that's still a lot, and it still comes up way too often, but you're not gonna die to it and one additional arrow, it'll take 2. So it's a more reasonable time to kill if you haven't taken any chip damage at least. Now don't get me wrong, this is still a priority character. But it's not really a toss-up between her, Khan, and Koa. You pick her when those two are banned or after they're picked. Drogoz is a must-ban on Bright Marsh and on Jaguar Falls, but less so. Bright Marsh is better for him, but he's still really good on Jaguar, so he's a good ban there too. Leon and Willow are good bans if you're planning to run a heavy sustain comp, like a Nara with a bursty main healer, a Buck, double healer, stuff like that. Leon more so than Willow, because Leon actively spreads 90% cot, while Willow nullifies healing in an area, but with a cooldown. Leon may not completely stop healing, but Deafen Taxes is more effective at limiting healing all around. You could also ban Leon if you plan on running Torvald, since Leon can have cot as well as stack Wrecker to take out your bubbles. Speaking of Torvald, I really want to say Torvald is a must ban because his new buff makes him the most annoying thing ever, but I can't. Torvald, like Cassie, is a good ban because his 100% bubble uptime is ridiculous, and putting that on a flank like Koga, for example, is absolutely nuts. Koga already has good sustain with his dashes. You do not want a 2000 HP barrier on top of that 24/7. However, again, he isn't a must ban because he does have counterplay. He doesn't have a lot of defense, so he can't stand up against aggressive play very well. Also, characters like Leon, Talus, and even Vivian can counter his barriers very well. Leon and Talus can of course have Cot in their kit, so they can stack Wrecker on top of that. Vivian could do it too, but I honestly recommend stacking Wrecker on top of Vivian's Sapper rounds because you can get to the point where it only takes you 2 or 3 bullets to melt a barrier. And with a fast firing weapon like Vivian's, it's basically like they don't have Torvald barriers around at all. Now I know I'm gonna get flack for actually recommending Vivian, but it's true. Vivian is a good Torvald counter and that's given her a purpose. If you play Vivian though, you have to play around one of your tanks. You don't have any mobility. You can be fast, but that's not really mobility. Play around a tank, don't leave their side, and actively seek out Torvald and his bubbles. Your value won't be super apparent on the endgame screen because barrier damage isn't there, but trust me, if you do it right and play it smart and safe, you will be giving your team a lot of value with the Vivian pick. Now I want to stress, if Leon is up, it's better to get her before Vivian, but Leon of course could be taken or banned. Snipers are good bans on maps with long sightlines, maps like Timbermill or Fish Market. Ascension Peak not so much, it's a decent sniper map, they can do well on it. There's just a lot of areas where you can break line of sight from the snipers and make it hard for them to do their job. If you can only ban one sniper, it would be Strix because he is way better than Kinessa. Kinessa has one-hit crits and mobility going for her, while Strix is very underrated and his unauthorized use talent is very busted. It is one of the most broken talents in the game and doesn't get anywhere near the amount of complaining that it deserves. Constant wall hacks in a game like this is insane, honestly, think about it. A hack that you can be banned across tons of games for is in a character's kit. All they need to do is fire a flare out every 5 seconds. I have no idea why this hasn't been nerfed hard yet. The flare is balanced at a 15-second cooldown, and this talent lowers it down to 5. That's ridiculous. You can't counter it either because if you step on the flare to get rid of it, you take 800 damage instantly and about 400 more over time. You can also use the card that makes the after effect of the reveal last longer, so even if you step on the flare, your team can still be revealed until he's ready to fire off another one 5 seconds later. Snipers are only bad on Jaguar Falls and Bright Marsh 2, so I'm honestly surprised at how much Strix doesn't get picked and abused. It's not like he's a difficult character either. Whenever I need an easy time on a long sightline map, I pick up Strix. That's really it for bans. Now I'm gonna talk about the rest of the characters who received balancing. Victor got a new talent, but it's not worth picking. It's a solid talent, I think, but Shrapnel is so blatantly better. It's a very stacked talent, and none of Victor's other talents come even close to matching it. Royal Subjects got a nerf, but it feels basically the same. It was pretty hard for me to tell any difference, so Bomb King is basically in the same place. Androxus definitely got better, but he hasn't really moved anywhere. He's still with the flanks in this weird spot where they aren't really good as a whole, but they aren't really bad either. It's pretty impossible to lose a 1v1 as Andro when you're in Defiance range. You can fire 2 bullets, then punch at the same time as you fire the third, and that'll kill almost anything that isn't a tank, and it'll kill them very quickly. Also, if you find that you're out of ammo, you can spam the punch. The thing is, the punch really likes to no-reg though, so it's pretty inconsistent. Eevee, again, in the same boat with her buffs. They help, but don't really push her to new heights or anything. The blink bug fixes are nice, but there's still several other blink bugs, so it can still feel pretty bad sometimes. Snow Globe, while being better, is still inferior to Wormhole, even with its nerf. because the in and out poke and escape with Wormhole is really good and offers Eevee a lot. Moji. Never pick this character under any circumstances, not even in casuals. This is the worst character in the game, even under Sky. Moji is worse than Release, Talus, and Anara. None of her talents are good anymore, and they increased her hitbox, making her nearly as wide as Makoa. Don't pick her. This is coming from a big fan of the character too. It's incredibly disappointing how they straight up gutted her. Tyra, I feel, is a sleeper character. I honestly think the really long, mostly uncounterable, constant reveals with Hunting Party are pretty damn strong and very annoying and unfun. But Tyra herself keeps it from really being that meta pick. Yes, some abilities can counter it, but again, it's mostly uncounterable. Also, Strix is of course in the game and his reveal is better, so what's the point of picking Tyra? Okay, supports now. Quite a bit is different here. Furia is no longer a must ban or a first pick. We're finally at the point where Furia is pretty balanced. Now as far as supports go, Furia is still top tier, along with Damba. They both have a lot of healing and a lot of utility. Ying in my opinion is close to them because Ying can heal a lot, an absolute ton. The trade-off being that Ying can't really defend herself. Like, her damage is pitiful. It takes about 5 fully accurate bursts to kill a target. Unless your attacker messes up a ton, you're not beating them. You can teleport away for a bit, but if your attacker is hard set on finding you, you'll need help from your team. Ying is not a throw pick anymore. No one has the right to complain about somebody picking Ying anymore. Healing wise, Ying is fantastic and can easily sustain a team now, but only with life exchange. Let me make it clear that if you pick any other talent, you're basically throwing. Grok is also a solid main healer with Spirit's Domain, however, there's no real point in picking him over Ying, Damba, and Furia. His healing output isn't as high and he takes more work. I know a lot of people are triggered by this, but he's close to Damba. Think about it, Damba has 2 methods of healing to manage. One is AoE, and one requires good mechanical skill. That is the same thing as Spirit's Domain Grok. He takes good tracking, has an AoE heal, and he has to manage them both. But he can't deal damage while healing with both abilities, so he has to pick his spots when it comes to healing and dealing damage. Something Damba doesn't have to do. Grok's invulnerability escape also isn't very good, and his ult is pretty bad because of its controls. But they are fixing that in the next update. So yeah, what I'm saying is he's good, but not as valuable as the others, to put it simply. Grover is in the same boat, a really solid healer but not worth picking over the others. His root talent is better than before, without a doubt, but it's not really that much better than before, and there aren't any meta flanks that make it really worth picking. Pip's new combat medic makes him the weakest of all the healers. 600 healing a second is pretty pitiful, especially since it gives up your damage if the enemy isn't right next to the people you're healing. Yes, you have your 1200 healing potion to pair with it every so often, but Mega Potion is still the top healing talent for him. But like before, I never really recommend Pip as a healer because in public games, people aren't coordinated and don't allow Pip to play to his full potential since people don't really stack up for his heal. He takes more work from everybody than it's really worth. Now there's still one more character to talk about, Koga. Koga isn't ranked as of this update, and like I said before, as far as PC goes, he's good, but he isn't really a standout meta character. He's honestly with the other flanks, with the exception of when he has a Torvald pocket. Again, that's absolutely insane. But yeah, by himself he's not worth banning or first picking at all. I was honestly surprised at how many PC players were saying he was broken. But I honestly shouldn't have been, because every time new flanks come out, people call them broken whether it's true or not. Once you know how to deal with him, he isn't that much of a problem. Leon, Andro, and Cassie all counter him pretty hard, for example. A lot of people just need more time to learn how to deal with him, and some people never will, but hey, that's not really anything new. The only thing that I can really agree with when it comes to being a bit too strong is Master of Arms working on barriers. But again, Kogas don't get Wrecker unless they're fighting Torv bubbles, so they spend around 6 seconds firing into a barrier, and that's a lot of time spent not technically fighting others. Now when it comes to console, I know he's broken, I get it, I know the aim functionality sucks and makes him difficult to deal with, but like I've said before, that doesn't mean Hi-Rez should gut him like they did with Mowgli. Instead, they need to fix console's aim functionality so you guys can deal with him like we can on PC, at least at higher tiers. Anyway, I went over basically everything new and everything that was worth going over. I like being able to take more time to talk about the newer and more important things, so I think I'll keep doing these guides like this from now on. Let me know what you think, and that's pretty much it guys. I want to thank you all for watching, I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye!